Hi, this is Dr. Jenny Byrne. I'm an adult psychiatrist at Cognitive Psychiatry of Chapel Hill, and today I wanted to take a minute and talk to you about something you may or may not have heard of called the Goldwater Rule in psychiatry. So another possible title for this would be why your psychiatrist isn't going to talk about political figures in our current political climate. So we've had a very tumultuous presidential election, and beginning of this administration has been very chaotic for some people. And often I'm asked, and I know my colleagues are asked, what do you think? What do you think of the president? What do you think of this person or that person? And we're asked to kind of give a psychiatric or psychological opinion on them. I think mainly these questions are asked to say, are they fit to have this role? Or so kind of asking you if there's anything in their history that you think should discredit them to be able to do this job. So there's something called the Goldwater Rule, which explains why you're not going to see psychiatrists or psychologists, you're not going to see us out there talking about the psychological or psychiatric state of people in politics. Why is this? So back in 1964, there was a presidential race, and Senator Barry Goldwater was one of the candidates. And he, a magazine called Fact Magazine, surveyed psychiatrists. It was about 12,000 psychiatrists to ask them whether or not they thought he was fit psychologically to be president. When the answers of the survey came back, a lot of people said he was not fit psychologically to be candidate, and he lost. So this brought up some real ethical questions for psychiatrists. You know, was this appropriate? Should we be commenting? How do we think about this? So in 1973, there was a rule passed for psychiatrists called the Goldwater Rule. And basically what it said was that we as psychiatrists should not be commenting on the psychiatric or psychological conditions of someone in politics. So you may ask, why? Aren't you the best people to comment on that? And that's maybe something that seems logical, but actually there's a lot of reasons why we shouldn't. So the main three reasons that we shouldn't is that to make a psychiatric diagnosis, part of our kind of ethical code is that we need to get consent for a patient to come to us and get evaluated. Now there are certain exceptions for this, like in a forensic court case, but in general, the patient is supposed to consent to the evaluation and understand what that's about. So obviously, if this is just someone in the media, they're not consenting to have me or any other psychiatrist talk about them. So that's the first part of the code, that it would violate kind of the ethics. The second reason it would violate the ethics is that we are not doing an examination of the person we're talking about. So to give a proper diagnosis and commentary, you really would need to do an actual examination. So you can watch someone in press clips and so forth, but unless that person's with you doing a psychiatric evaluation, you're not really following your own code of ethics. So that's the second reason that we shouldn't talk about political people. And then the third one, which I think in some ways is the most interesting ethical part, is that by saying things about a candidate, especially a negative or something meant to kind of discredit them, we are in fact kind of promoting the idea that people with psychiatric problems should be discriminated against, right? So for example, if someone has had a history of major depressive disorder, and then a psychiatrist would say they're unfit to run for office because, well, who knows, they may have a psychiatric problem and they may get depressed while they're in office. That's very discriminatory. Major depressive disorder, like other medical illnesses, is something that is treatable. It's something that with proper treatment you can stay in remission, often for very long periods of time. And even if you were to have a major depressive episode while you were president, there are things that you can do. And actually there's some evidence that some of our most famous presidents, including Abraham Lincoln, maybe did have depression. So by us saying something about the psychiatric condition of a candidate or the president or any other political figure, we are discrediting them, and that discrediting is a form of discrimination. So I don't know if that's clear. That's maybe a little bit more philosophical. But really, those are the three main ethical reasons why you're not going to hear me or other psychiatrists commenting on what's happening in politics as it regards to specific people. Again, it violates the rule of consent for a psychiatric examination. It violates an ethic code for conducting a proper psychiatric evaluation before rendering a diagnosis. And then third of all, it kind of promotes this idea of discrimination, that if someone does have a mental illness or does have psychiatric issues in their history or in their present, that they are unfit to be a politician or to be a leader. So anyway, I hope that shed light on some things. I thought this was really interesting, something I had heard about before, but I hadn't really thought about. I think in our current political climate, it's becoming much more important to understand this. So anyway, I hope you found it interesting. If you have any more questions, feel free to reach out to us with the information below. Thank you.